At the beginning of the story, we see a prison called Shashank. It is known as the most secure prison in the world. Thousands of prisoners are locked inside this prison. But until today, not a single prisoner has ever escaped from here. The security is so strict that escaping is almost impossible. Some prisoners have spent their entire lives inside these walls. Even they never think about escaping because everyone knows one thing. Any prisoner who tries to escape is punished with death. The scene then shifts to a courtroom where we meet a man named Andy. He works as a banker for one of the biggest banks in America. The judge finds him guilty of murdering his wife and her lover. Because of this, Andy is sentenced to life in prison. Andy keeps saying that he did not kill them. He insists that he is innocent, but he has no proof to defend himself. Since there is no evidence in his favor, the judge sends him to Shashank, the most secure prison in the world. Andy arrives at the prison with several other new prisoners. As they are brought inside, the old inmates begin making bets with each other. They place a full pack of cigarettes on the line and try to guess which new prisoner will cry first that night. They carefully look at every new face. One prisoner named Red places his bet on Andy. He thinks Andy looks soft, innocent, and rich. Red believes that Andy has never faced real hardship in his life, so he is sure that Andy will be the first one to break down. Soon, all the new prisoners are taken inside. One by one, they are locked inside their prison cells. A few hours later, night falls. The older prisoners begin shouting and making loud noises to scare the newcomers. Their goal is simple. They want someone to lose control and start crying. Before long, one of the new prisoners breaks down. He starts crying loudly and keeps saying that he wants to go home. Hearing all the noise, the prison guards arrive. They order him to stop crying. But the man cannot control himself. When he refuses to stay quiet, the guards drag him out of his cell and beat him so badly that he becomes unconscious. At the same time, Red realizes that he has lost his bet. Andy never cries. He never even makes a sound. After seeing this, Red understands that Andy is much stronger than he first thought. The next morning, Red gives the pack of cigarettes to the prisoner who won the bet. Later, we see Andy quietly eating his breakfast alone. During breakfast, he meets Brooks, the oldest prisoner in Shawshank. Brooks has spent almost 50 years inside this prison. Andy speaks to him politely and tries to learn about the prison. He asks about the rules and about the prisoners who live there. Brooks explains everything to him. He tells Andy many secrets about life inside Shawshank. Before leaving, Brooks gives him one more piece of advice. He says that if Andy ever wants something from outside the prison, he should talk to a prisoner named Red. As soon as Andy hears this, he wastes no time. He walks straight to Red and says, "I heard you can get almost anything from outside." Red smiles and replies, "Yes, I can get many things, but only if they can't be used to escape or kill someone." Andy then says, "I need a rock hammer." The request surprises Red. He looks at Andy and asks, "Why do you need a rock hammer? You're not planning to kill someone with it, are you?" Andy replies, "No, I'm not going to kill anyone. I don't have any enemies here." After hearing this, Red says, "You may not have any enemies right now, but very soon. Some people will become your enemies." He points toward a group of prisoners and warns Andy that those men have their eyes on him. He tells Andy to stay away from them. The next day, Red keeps his promise and gets the rock hammer for Andy. When Red sees the hammer himself, he starts laughing because it is extremely small. In his mind, he thinks that if Andy ever tried to dig a tunnel with this tiny hammer, it would take him 600 years to escape. Later, Red sends the hammer to Andy's cell through Brooks. As time passes, one day Andy is working in the prison laundry when the same three prisoners who have been watching him suddenly grab him. Andy struggles to free himself, but he cannot fight against all three men alone. They beat him badly and then assault him. This terrible thing keeps happening again and again. Whenever they get the chance, they catch Andy, beat him, and abuse him. In this way, 2 years pass. One day, an announcement is made that the prison roof needs repairs, and a group of prisoners is needed for the job. Red and Andy are both selected as part of the work crew. Soon, they all begin repairing the roof. The prisoners are supervised by a very strict prison guard named Hadley. Hadley is known for his harsh behavior. Even the smallest mistake is enough for him to beat a prisoner without mercy. While everyone is working on the roof, Hadley seems worried. He tells the other guards that his brother has recently died and left behind $35,000 in his account. Since he is the only family member left, all of that money now belongs to him. But there is one problem. He says that if he transfers the money into his own account, the government will take a large amount through taxes. Andy quietly hears this conversation. Since he is an experienced banker, he already knows a legal way to avoid paying that tax. Without wasting any time, Andy walks over to Hadley and asks, "Do you trust your wife?" The question makes Hadley furious. He grabs Andy and drags him to the edge of the roof. Just before throwing him off, Andy quickly explains what he means. He says that if Hadley truly trusts his wife and believes she will never betray him, he can transfer the money into her account instead. Andy explains that the government allows a person to gift gift up to $60,000 to their wife during their lifetime, without paying any tax. He also tells Hadley that hiring a lawyer would cost a lot of money, but he can handle all the paperwork for free. Hadley then asks, "What do you want in return?" Andy smiles and says, "I don't want anything for myself. After your work is done, just buy a few beers for my friends." The very next day, all the prisoners who worked on the roof are sitting together and enjoying cold beer. It is clear that Andy successfully solved Hadley's problem. However, Andy does not drink any beer himself. Instead, he quietly sits in one corner and smiles as he watches the other prisoners enjoy the moment. The other prisoners are also very thankful to Andy because drinking beer inside the prison is almost impossible. But because of Andy, they finally get to enjoy it. As time passes, Andy and Red become very close friends. A few days later, the prison arranges a movie night for all the prisoners. Everyone is watching a film starring Rita Hayworth. During the movie, Andy walks over to Red and says, "I want a large poster of Rita Hayworth." Andy asks Red because Red is the only prisoner who can secretly bring things from outside. After the movie ends, Andy walks outside, but as soon as he steps out, the same three prisoners who have been abusing him are waiting for him. They tell Andy to come with them. This time, Andy refuses. His refusal makes them angry. They grab him and try to force themselves on him again. Andy fights back with everything he has, but he is alone and they are three. They beat him very badly. This time they fail to assault him, but they leave him so badly injured that he has to stay in the prison hospital for an entire month. The prisoner who attacked Andy the most is punished with 1 week in solitary confinement. A week later, when that prisoner returns to his cell, guard Hadley is waiting for him. Someone has already told Hadley that this man beat Andy so badly that he ended up in the hospital for a month. Hadley becomes furious and beats the prisoner without mercy. The beating is so severe that the man is left permanently paralyzed. 1 month later, Andy finally returns from the hospital. When he enters his cell, he finds a large Rita Hayworth poster waiting for him. It is a welcome gift from Red. Time continues to pass. One day, the prison warden arrives at Andy's cell with several guards to inspect it. They carefully search the entire cell but find nothing suspicious. Then the warden notices the Rita Hayworth poster hanging on the wall. He says that he normally does not allow prisoners to keep posters in their cells, but Andy can keep this one. In reality, the inspection is only an excuse. Guard Hadley has already told the warden how Andy saved him from paying a huge tax. Because of that, the warden wants to use Andy for his own benefit. Before leaving, the warden notices the Bible in Andy's hands. He takes it from him and walks away. After taking a few steps, he suddenly comes back and returns the Bible to Andy. As he hands it back, he says, "Salvation lies within." The next day, the warden calls Andy to his office. He tells Andy that a smart man like him should not spend all his time behind bars without doing something useful. Then he assigns Andy as the assistant librarian. The old librarian is Brooks, who has been taking care of the prison library for many years. Soon after that, guard Hadley brings another guard to Andy. This guard needs help with his income tax return. Andy completes all the paperwork in just a few minutes. After that, word quickly spreads throughout the prison. Everyone begins talking about Andy and his financial skills. As the years pass, Andy's work inside the prison keeps increasing. He becomes so busy that he needs someone to help him. So he chooses his closest friend, Red, to be his assistant. One day, something shocking happens inside the library. Brooks suddenly puts a knife to another prisoner's throat and threatens to kill him for no reason. The truth is that the government has approved Brooks's release. But Brooks does not want to leave the prison. He has now spent 50 years inside Shawshank. His entire life has passed behind these walls. He has completely forgotten what the outside world is like. To him, the prison has become his real home. He believes that if he kills someone, his sentence will be extended, and he will be allowed to stay in prison forever. Andy calmly talks to Brooks and convinces him to let the prisoner go. Brooks finally lowers the knife. Soon after, Brooks is released from prison, even though he does not want to leave. When he steps into the outside world, everything feels strange to him. During the last 50 years, the world has changed completely. Long ago, seeing a single car on the road was normal. Now the streets are filled with traffic everywhere. After a few days, Brooks gets a job at a supermarket, but he never feels comfortable in his new life. He misses the prison every single day. He keeps wishing that he could go back. Sometimes he even thinks about committing a crime so he can return to Shawshank, but at his age, he does not want to become a criminal again. In the end, Brooks cannot adjust to the fast and crowded outside world. He loses all hope and takes his own life. Before dying, he writes a letter to his friends in prison. When the prisoners read his letter, they all become deeply emotional. Meanwhile, back at Shawshank, the warden starts a new prison program. Under this program, prisoners are taken outside to work, so they can learn how honest people earn money through hard work. The prisoners happily agree because they are excited to spend some time outside the prison walls. However, the warden has his own hidden plan. Because prison labor is extremely cheap, he begins winning many construction contracts. Local construction workers stop getting jobs because the warden completes the same work for almost half the price by using prisoners. He pays the prisoners nothing, so he earns a huge huge amount of money from these contracts. All of this money is illegal black money. Since Andy is an experienced banker, he secretly helps the warden turn that black money into legal money. Andy creates the identity of a man who does not even exist. Then he transfers all the money into accounts under that fake name. This way, even if the police ever investigate, they will only be searching for a person who was never born. Sometime later, a new prisoner named Tommy arrives at Shashank. Tommy is still very young, but even at his age, he has already been sent to several different prisons. He has a friendly personality, so he quickly becomes friends with many prisoners. One day, while everyone is eating together, Tommy proudly tells them that he has been stealing for many years. He says that he has been locked up in many prisons because of theft, and this time he also came to Shashank for the same reason. After hearing this, Andy smiles and says, "If you keep getting caught every time you steal, then maybe this job just isn't meant for you, so you should stop stealing." Tommy thinks Andy's advice makes perfect sense. After that, he becomes curious about Andy and starts asking Red about him. Tommy tells Red that Andy seems like a smart, kind, and decent man. Then he asks why someone like Andy ended up in prison. Red explains that Andy used to be a successful banker. He was convicted of murdering his wife and her lover, and that is why he is serving a life sentence. As soon as Tommy hears this, he suddenly becomes quiet. It looks like he has remembered something important. He quickly calls Andy over. Now Andy and Red are both standing in front of Tommy. Tommy tells them that 4 years ago he was locked up in another prison. While he was there, he met another prisoner. One day, that prisoner confessed that he had broken into a house to steal. During the robbery, the owner of the house woke up. Afraid of getting caught, he shot and killed both the man and the woman inside the house. Later, he found out that they were not husband and wife. They were lovers, and the woman was actually the wife of a wealthy banker. Tommy continues by saying that some time later, he read a newspaper article about the case. According to the news, the police believed that the banker had murdered his wife and her lover, so they arrested him and sentenced him for both murders. At that moment, Andy finally realizes that he was innocent all along. After hearing the whole story, Andy immediately goes to the warden and tells him everything Tommy has revealed. But the warden refuses to believe him. The truth is that the warden does not want Andy to leave the prison. Andy is the man who launders all of the warden's illegal money, and he knows too many dangerous secrets. If Andy is released, the warden could lose both his money and his protection. So the warden simply tells Andy that the story is nothing more than a lie. He says that prisoners make up stories like this every day. Andy promises that even if he is released, he will never expose the warden's secrets, but the warden refuses to listen. Andy becomes furious. He cannot believe that after helping the warden so much, he is still being denied his freedom even though he is innocent. Andy raises his voice in anger. The warden immediately punishes him by sending him to solitary confinement for 1 month. After that, the warden goes straight to Tommy. He asks Tommy if everything he told Andy is really true. Tommy confidently says yes. The warden then asks if Tommy would be willing to testify in court if he is called as a witness. Tommy says that he is ready to tell the truth. The moment Tommy says this, the warden gives a signal to a guard standing nearby. Without hesitation, the guard opens fire and shoots Tommy to death. Later, the warden visits Andy in solitary confinement. He tells Andy that Tommy was shot because he tried to escape from prison, but Andy immediately understands what really happened. He knows Tommy was murdered to keep the truth hidden. At that moment, Andy realizes that the warden is a truly evil man. Andy tells the warden that from this day forward, he will never do his financial work again. The warden coldly replies that Andy has no choice. He says that if Andy refuses, he will turn his life inside the prison into a living nightmare. Before leaving, the warden orders the guards to keep Andy in solitary confinement for 1 more month. Solitary confinement is one of the most terrifying places in the prison. A prisoner is locked alone in complete darkness for an entire month. Andy has already survived 1 month in that tiny dark cell. Now, he must endure another month trapped in the same terrifying place. Soon, the entire prison learns the truth that Andy is serving a life sentence for a crime he never committed. Every prisoner feels sorry for him. After spending 2 full months in solitary confinement, Andy is finally released. Red walks over to him and they begin talking. Andy asks Red, "Do you think you will ever get out of this prison?" Red replies, "Yes, maybe one day. But by then, I will be an old man and my mind may not even work properly anymore." Andy then says, "When I get out of here, I'm going to Mexico. There is a beautiful place by the ocean. People say you can lose yourself there. I want to open a small restaurant. I also want to repair boats near the beach. But I will need someone who can bring supplies for me." Andy is clearly talking about Red. After hearing this, Red shakes his head and says, "Hope is a dangerous thing. It can drive a man crazy. You need to come back to reality. Mexico is far away from here." After saying this, Red starts walking away. But before he leaves, Andy stops him and says, "Promise me one thing. If you ever get out of this prison, will you do something for me?" Red agrees. Andy then gives him an address. He tells Red that after his release, he should go to a place where there is a beautiful tree standing alone in the the middle of a large field. Andy says that this is the same place where he once proposed to his wife. Then he tells Red that beneath a black stone hidden inside a small wall near that tree, he has left a box. Andy asks him to find the stone and look inside the box after he is released. Without saying anything else, Andy leaves and goes straight to the warden's office. He finishes all of the warden's financial work and carefully places every important document inside a special safe. After that, the warden hands Andy his clothes and tells him to iron them properly. He also orders Andy to polish his shoes until they shine like a mirror. Andy quietly takes the clothes and returns to his cell. That night, Red cannot stop worrying. He is afraid that Andy might lose hope and take his own life. The night slowly passes and morning finally arrives. As usual, the guards unlock every prison cell and all the prisoners step outside. But Andy does not come out of his cell. During the last 20 years, this has never happened before. Red keeps staring toward Andy's cell. His fear grows stronger with every passing second. He starts thinking that Andy may have killed himself. Just then, an angry guard walks toward Andy's cell, but the moment he looks inside, he freezes in shock. The cell is completely empty. Andy is gone. He has escaped from Shashank. At the same time, the warden is getting ready for the day. He opens the box to take out his polished shoes. But instead of finding his own shoes, he finds Andy's old shoes inside. At that very moment, the prison alarm begins ringing loudly. It is the emergency alarm for a prison escape. The warden immediately rushes to Andy's cell. When he sees that Andy is really gone, he orders the guards to bring Red at once because Red was always Andy's closest friend. A few moments later, Red is brought in front of the warden. The warden looks at him and angrily asks, "Where is Andy?" Red calmly replies, "How would I know?" The warden becomes furious after hearing Red's answer. He shouts, "What was he, a ghost? How could he disappear overnight?" In his anger, the warden starts throwing rocks at the guards and even at Red. Then he picks up another rock and throws it at the Rita Hayworth poster hanging on the wall. But instead of bouncing back, the rock passes straight through the poster. The warden quickly walks over and pushes his hand through the hole. To his complete shock, he discovers a large tunnel hidden behind the poster. Everyone standing there is left speechless. The prison wall is incredibly thick and strong. Digging a tunnel through it without heavy machinery should have been impossible. But Andy had done the impossible and escaped from Shawshank. The guards immediately follow the tunnel to the place where Andy came out. There, they find Andy's old prison clothes and the small rock hammer that Red brought him 20 years earlier. It is the same tiny hammer Andy has been using all these years to slowly dig through the wall of his cell. For 20 long years, Andy worked so carefully that no one ever suspected a thing. Every time he chipped away a little piece of the wall, he hid the dust and small pieces of concrete in his pockets. Later, while walking around the prison yard, he quietly scattered them across the ground so nobody would notice. The last time Andy worked for the warden, he secretly kept all the documents connected to the warden's illegal money. At the same time, he cleverly placed his Bible inside the warden's safe right in front of him. He made it look as if he was putting the financial documents into the safe, but in reality, he left the Bible there instead. Later, when the warden asked Andy to iron his clothes, Andy first put on the warden's clothes. Then he wore his old prison clothes over them. He also put on the polished shoes that the warden had asked him to shine. That night, after all the prison lights went out, Andy entered the tunnel hidden behind the poster. He crawled through it until he reached a large sewage pipe. Then he broke the pipe open and crawled through the narrow sewer tunnel. It was the same prison that no one had ever escaped from before. The sewer pipe was almost 2 kilometers long, but Andy kept crawling until he finally reached freedom. The next morning, Andy goes to the bank where all of the warden's illegal money has been stored. The account belongs to a man who does not even exist. Andy himself created that fake identity years ago. While he was in prison, he had been signing documents under that fake name, so he already had every document and signature needed to prove his identity. Because of that, the bank has no reason to doubt him. Andy successfully withdraws all the money from the account. The total amount is $370,000. In the end, Andy not only wins his freedom, but also walks away with a huge fortune. At this moment, we realize that Andy had been planning his escape from the very first day he entered Shawshank. The warden had treated him terribly for years, and he was also responsible for Tommy's death. So Andy sends all the evidence of the warden's illegal money to the media. The very next morning, the story is printed in the newspapers. When the warden opens his safe to check his documents, he is shocked to find that they are gone. The only thing left inside is Andy's Bible. On the first page of the Bible, the warden finds a message written by Andy. It says, "You were right. Salvation does lie within." When the warden turns the pages, he notices a hollow space cut into the shape of a small rock hammer. Andy had carefully carved the inside of the Bible so he could hide the hammer there. The warden is shocked when he realizes that the hammer had been hidden inside that Bible for the last 20 years. Even the very first time he visited Andy's cell and took the Bible from Andy's hands before giving it back, the hammer was already inside it. The truth hits the warden all at once, and he realizes how cleverly Andy had fooled him for all those years. At the same time, news about the warden's illegal money money spreads across the entire city. Reporters and police officers rush to the prison to arrest him, but before the police can take him into custody, the warden shoots himself. Some time later, Red is finally granted parole. After spending 40 years in prison, he is released and is also given a job by the government. But just like Brooks, Red cannot adjust to life outside. The outside world feels strange to him after living in prison for so many years. He even stays in the same room where Brooks once lived. At one point, Red also begins thinking about ending his own life, but then he remembers the promise he made to Andy. Because of that promise, Red gets into a car and drives to the place Andy told him about. He reaches a large open field where a beautiful tree stands beside a small stone wall. In the wall, he finds the black stone Andy described. When he lifts it, he discovers a small box hidden underneath. Inside the box, there is some money and a letter from Andy. In the letter, Andy tells Red that he is waiting for him at the beautiful place by the ocean that he once described inside the prison. Andy also writes one final message: hope is a good thing. After reading the letter, Red travels to that place. When he reaches the beach, he sees Andy working on a boat near the ocean. Everything Andy dreamed about inside the prison has finally come true. It is the same peaceful life he once described to Red, even though Red had said that hope was a dangerous thing. Finally, the two old friends meet again and warmly hug each other. With this emotional reunion, the story comes to an end. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel to see more such videos. Thanks for watching.